You do not dedicate your existence to the subterranean world because you possess a romanticized lust for adventure. You seek it out because the world above the crust is an exhausting blur of fluorescent office lights, passive-aggressive emails, and the terrifying, creeping realization that you are fundamentally unremarkable. You are 28, employed as a logistics coordinator, spending 40 hours a week tracking shipping containers full of patio furniture you will never see. Your life is a continuous sequence of predictable disappointments. You pay too much for a cramped studio apartment where the single window faces a decaying brick wall. Your romantic life consists of first dates that end in polite ghosting. You are drifting, untethered, floating through an existence so devoid of friction that you can barely feel it happening to you. Then, an acquaintance from a local climbing gym invites you to a beginner's caving expedition. You accept not out of genuine curiosity, but out of a desperate, clawing need to interrupt your own suffocating apathy. You purchase a cheap plastic helmet and a battery-powered headlamp. You follow the noisy group down a muddy embankment and slip into the gaping mouth of a limestone karst system. When the eccentric guide instructs everyone to turn off their lights to experience absolute, natural darkness, the others nervously chuckle and whisper. But you feel a profound, instantaneous relief. And that pitch-black void, the oppressive weight of your surface-level mediocrity, vanishes completely. There is no patio furniture down here. There are no expectations whatsoever. There is only the damp air, the metallic smell of ancient sediment, and the silence. You find your anchor. Over the next 5 years, your entire existence meticulously reorganizes itself around the obsessive pursuit of the underground. You abruptly quit your logistics job, trading the illusion of upward mobility for a remote data entry gig that pays significantly less, but allows you to work from the back of a modified cargo van parked at the trailheads of obscure cave systems. The surface world becomes nothing more than a chaotic, irritating waiting room, a place where you are forced to endure glaring daylight just long enough to resupply your carbide lamps, buy cheap canned food, and violently scrub the stubborn clay out of your heavy canvas coveralls. You become thoroughly obsessed. You spend thousands of hours navigating thousands of miles of subterranean networks, mapping the black veins of the earth. You learn exactly how to read the subtle scalloping on the walls to determine the direction of ancient water flows. You find the highly insular community of fellow cavers, but even among those fringe dwellers, you are quickly known as a reckless fanatic. You specialize entirely in pushing the tightest, most unforgiving physical restrictions. While other explorers marvel at massive, echoing cathedral rooms filled with glittering stalactites, you find your deepest solace in the agonizingly tight, muddy crawls. You master the hyper-specific physical geometry required to navigate impossibly small spaces. You learn how to voluntarily dislocate your own shoulder joint, just enough to slip past the jagged pinch point. You learn the exact mathematical angle to tilt your chin so your plastic helmet scrapes violently against the roof but doesn't jam completely. You become deeply arrogant in your subterranean mastery. You single-handedly map the Devil's Mailbox, a jagged 12-inch squeeze that takes 2 exhausting hours to navigate. The caves accept you. They make absolute sense to you. They are completely impartial, ancient, and entirely indifferent to the neurotic trivialities of human life. Down here, you are an elite, untouchable explorer, a phantom slipping effortlessly through the frozen arteries of the earth. You feel a bulletproof kinship with the stone. You genuinely believe the caves recognize you, that they part for you, that you belong to them. The devastating shift happens slowly, and then all at once, during a deeply illegal solo mapping expedition in an undocumented cave system you discovered behind the collapsed, weed-choked sinkhole in a remote mountain range. You are blatantly breaking the absolute cardinal rule of caving. You are going underground completely alone. But you intensely desire to put your name on a sprawling system no human eye has ever witnessed. You spend 3 grueling days systematically pushing deeper than you have ever gone, laying neon survey tape through damp, wildly twisting labyrinths. On the afternoon of the 4th day, you find it. At the back of a dry breakdown room filled with shattered boulders, an undeniably steady current of cold air is blowing outward from a dark crack near the floor. In the underground, massive airflow means a cathedral-like open space lies just beyond the rock face. You drop eagerly to your bruised knees and inspect the opening. It is a bedding plane, a perfectly horizontal gap between two unbroken tectonic plates of solid rock. You slide your digital laser measure into the shadowy slot. The red numbers blink back at you in the gloom. Exactly 10 inches. 10 inches! An adult male ribcage entirely devoid of oxygen, compressed to its absolute skeletal limit, is roughly 9.5 to 10 inches. It is the razor-edge threshold of physical impossibility. A sane person would instantly turn back. A sane person would note the GPS coordinates and return with a team to widen the terrible gap. But you are not sane anymore. You are deeply possessed by the blinding arrogance of 100 death-defying squeezes. You strip off your heavy canvas coveralls, leaving only a thin synthetic base layer to reduce friction. You aggressively push your primary gear bag into the gap ahead of you. You lie completely flat on your stomach, your cheek resting heavily against the freezing floor. You take 3 rapid, hyperventilating breaths, expanding your lungs to their maximum capacity. And on the 4th breath, you forcefully exhale every single cubic millimeter of air from your body. Your chest cavity flattens. Ignoring the frantic warning bells ringing in your subconscious, you push blindly into the 10-inch slot. For the first excruciating 5 feet, your practice mastery holds true. It is agonizingly tight, a full-body vice grip that mercilessly grinds against your sternum and your spine simultaneously. But you are successfully moving. Exhale, push blindly with your toes, pause, take a microscopic sip of air, exhale again, push again. But the Earth is fundamentally not a machine. It is a chaotic, asymmetrical, and entirely unforgiving force of nature. 7 feet deep into the crushing restriction, the geology subtly alters its internal geometry. The heavy limestone ceiling does not drop, but the solid rock floor rises by perhaps 3/8 of a single inch. It is an entirely invisible shift, utterly undetectable in the pitch black until your hip bones slide heavily over it. A small fossilized nodule of ancient coral, no larger than a thimble, catches the dense nylon belt loop of your pants. You instinctively attempt to wiggle your lower half forward. That single, tiny movement is your fatal mistake. By pushing forward over the slight incline, your own body acts as a biological wedge, driving the thickest, hardest part of your pelvis directly into the absolute narrowest section of the stone vise. You are suddenly, immovably stuck. You violently attempt to back up, to reverse the error, but the incline forces you to push your body weight upward against gravity while being completely deprived of any mechanical leverage. Your heavy rubber boots find zero purchase on the slick, polished stone behind you. You exhale violently, desperately trying to shrink your skeleton even further, but the unyielding rock is already severely compressing your internal organs. You frantically pull with your extended fingertips against the floor until the fingernails tear away from the nail beds, leaving smears of blood in the dust. You do not move a single millimeter backward. You realize with a sickening clarity that your vast knowledge of cave surveying is now useless. Your specialized survival gear, your water, and your emergency rations are sitting in a nylon bag just 3 feet out of your reach, mocking you. You open your mouth to scream, but the crushing 10-inch gap prevents your lungs from drawing in enough oxygen to produce anything more than a wheeze. The hours begin to stretch and warp into a nightmarish eternity. The rush of adrenaline burns out, leaving behind the profound, freezing exhaustion that seeps deep into your marrow. You lie there, penned between millions of tons of solid limestone, and you wait for a rescue team that you know, with absolute mathematical certainty, is never going to come. Nobody in the world knows about the hidden sinkhole. Time slowly degrades into a meaningless, hallucinatory blur of physical agony and mental fragmentation. You begin to hear the phantom ringing of a telephone. You hear the hum of the corporate logistics office you once despised. And in this moment, you would give anything to be sitting under those fluorescent lights. The lithium battery in your headlamp begins to die. The beam flickers erratically, dims to a sickly yellow ember, and then finally extinguishes, plunging you into an abyssal, suffocating blackness. You are swallowed completely. The cave was never your sanctuary. It was just a patiently waiting predator. It lured you in with the promise of silence and isolation, and now it will rigidly keep you forever. You cannot shift your weight. You cannot even turn your head to look behind you. You can only stare blankly into the lightless void as the crushing weight of the earth holds you in a permanent embrace. You willingly gave your entire life to the dark, and now the dark is simply keeping it. There's no miraculous burst of strength. The rock does not negotiate with human willpower. The rock does not care about your expertise. The rock wins.